Do you want to do more than follow orders? Think outside of the box and manifest your dreams? Then you've come to the right show. Welcome to the award-winning podcast, Holding Down the Fort by U.S. VetWealth. I'm your host, Jen Amos, a Gold Star daughter, veteran spouse, and entrepreneur. For Season 8, we continue our wonderful partnership with the Rosie Network to highlight motivational stories of personal growth, financial awareness, and autonomy in our military community. We're also excited to showcase our partnership with Blue Water Advisors. Well, we have a lot in store for you this season, so let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode here at Holding Down the Fort. I am your host, Jen Amos, and this show is in partnership with U.S. VetWealth, the Rosie Network, and Blue Water Advisors. Takes a village, takes a village. If you haven't heard me said that a million times already, this is the millionth and first time that I'm going to stress the importance of how it takes a village to make a show like this possible. So I just always want to point that out and have you all understand that I cannot do this alone, and I am very proud of that. All right, question of the day for you all. What outdoor activity brings you and your children the most joy? Well, for Katie Peabody and her family, it's spending quality time in the mountains. As the founder and CEO of KinderMountain, Katie noticed a gap in the market for technical outdoor clothing for children, especially kids under 5. This discovery came about as she struggled to find suitable outdoor clothing for her 3 children. As a recent graduate of the Rosie Network's Service to CEO program, Katie's company aims to produce hiking pants, softshell jackets, and sun shirts for children, designed with the same technical features as adult outdoor clothing. She also plans to offer a trade-in program for outgrown items to keep them out of landfills and make them more affordable. Listen to Katie's passion for getting kids outdoors and sharing the benefits of outdoor learning. If you want to get a hold of Katie as you're listening to this conversation, be sure to check out the show notes of this episode on your preferred podcasting app. You can also visit our website, holdingdownthefortpodcast.com. And on the search bar in the top right, you can plug in the numbers 198. That is our episode number, episode 198. And you'll be able to find show notes and contact information and everything else there. Katie, it was a pleasure having you on the show. I thoroughly enjoyed our convo afterward, offline. That's one thing I get to enjoy the most, really, about the interviews is, at least for me, it's what I get to do after the interviews, which is having, candid offline conversations with my guests. So thank you for that extra additional time with you. And with that said, I hope that you all enjoy this conversation. Once again, this is Katie Peabody's answer to outdoor apparel for children 12 months to 12 years old. Happy listening or watching, because we are also available on YouTube, in which you can get the direct link in the show notes of this episode. Enjoy. All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another episode here at Holding Down the Fort. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Katie Peabody with KinderMountain. She's a founder and CEO. Katie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes. So the first thing I want to ask you, and I feel like this can be a loaded question for a lot of people, so I'm going to try to be specific, is for people that are getting to know you for the first time, give us a quick snapshot of your life, particularly what keeps you busy or excited nowadays.
Well, I have 3 kids. So the youngest just turned 4 this week, and the oldest turned 16 at the beginning of the month. So, what keeps me busy is I work full-time for one company. I'm doing my startup, which is KinderMountain. I do 1099 work. I volunteer with different organizations. And then I'm a soccer mom, a cheer mom, and I homeschool 3 kids. So that's what keeps me busy from the day to day.
Oh my goodness. What a life.
Yes. It is nonstop all the time here.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing. And more importantly, thank you for taking the time to just take a quick pause and hopefully use this time to reflect and maybe count your blessings at this point of your journey on our show today. I know the primary topic will be around KinderMountain today. And I know that, being a mom plays a a big influence into what you do. So let's just go ahead and dive into it. Tell me a little bit about KinderMountain and how your startup began.
Well, that goes back to when I was 4 days old. So flashback in time to 1985. Don't do the math. I'm old. Um, so I was born in Oregon. My dad had a family cabin down in Southern Oregon. And at 4 days old, he convinced my mom that that's the place we needed to be. So I have been in the wilderness since I was a newborn. And my kids have all been in the wilderness since they were newborns. And one of the struggles that I was running into, for the past 16 years is I was having trouble finding clothes that would match what I was wearing in the outdoors. I want to take my kids hiking. Well, when you have kids, the first thing they want to do is jump in a puddle or jump in a stream, and then they're soaked because they're wearing sweatpants or something that's cotton, and cotton doesn't dry, not when you're hiking. So I was like, okay, let's try to find you guys some quick dry material, like, technical pants, nylon, polyester stuff that I would wear. And we couldn't find it. We could for the older kids. Stores like REI, Shields, they had options available, but it was like, here's your one pair of pants. I'm like, oh, all right, that's cool. So the smallest size that I could find was 4T. And my youngest at the time was 18 months, and he didn't fit in any of it. I was like, all right, well, he's my most adventurous child, and he is the one that's always filthy, muddy, wet. I was like, let's change this. I was like, if I'm running into this problem, I know other parents are. And I got into some hiking groups that I'm in on Facebook. I started asking questions. I was like, hey, how are you guys dressing your kids? What are you putting them in? What have you found that works? And everyone's like, oh, we just do sweatpants and I bring an extra pair. Like, see, everyone's having the same issue. So I started putting out feelers. I was like, hey, if technical pants were available for your kid, what features do you want them to have? And it started to just grow from there. People are like, oh, if it could have closures at the ankle to keep ticks out. Oh, if you could make long length, my kid's taller than the average kid. Oh, it would be cool if there was zippered pockets because my kid's always collecting rocks and they're falling out. So just kind of the ideas kept coming in, and I was like, all right, we can do this. Like, let's make this happen.
I think it's so great that because of all the communities that you're a part of, you essentially had this like free focus group, to ask people like, hey, what if we were able to have technical pants?
Facebook is a great place for that. Reddit is another great place. You just go in there and kind of like, hey, here's the struggle I'm having. Who else? Like, who's got a solution for this? And then you see that no one's got a solution. It's like, all right, I'm onto something here. Like, let's make this grow. So it's definitely nice to have those focus groups to reach out to that you're not having to pay thousands of dollars for.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, it's one thing to ask like, what if we could have this? What if we could have that? But it's another thing to actually implement it, right? It's like, there's so many people who have ideas, but it's another thing to actually, it's actually like, it's a whole other thing to execute it. So tell us, I know that you're fairly new with KinderMountain, but go ahead and tell me about like the early stages of it. And I know that you have worked with the Rosie Network as well to make this possible, but tell us about that.
So I am, I think there's two types of people. There's the people who read and have the ideas but never action it. And then there's the people that jump in and kind of figure stuff out as they go along. I'm the latter. My husband is the former. So it kind of helped to balance me out. And one of my investors is also the like, it's a great idea, but take a step back and like, give me more. Where's your business plan? What are you doing? And that's when I found the Rosie Network, which helped me kind of slow myself down so I wasn't rushing to failure. I think taking action is great, but you have to have a plan to back up the actions that you're taking. So
yeah, absolutely.
It started last February is when I had the idea. I got my business license and kind of secured the name and social media and stuff. And then I started developing. I worked with a designer in England from there. And then I found the Rosie Network, I think in April or May, and joined the summer cohort last year. And we developed my pitch deck, and which is essentially like I was able to grow my pitch deck into my business plan. And, so now I have 3 investors. My husband and I are also putting money into it. And I have been talking to manufacturers now. So we're getting closer to having the samples back. And it's, it gives me chills thinking about it. Like, hey, this is actually, it's coming to life. Like, I'm so excited. But then it's also kind of scary because it's like, hey, this could fail or this could just blow up beyond anything you were expecting for it. So yeah, it's a journey.
Well, I mean, I'm incredibly impressed that this is something you wanted to do less than a year ago. Like a year's coming up, and the fact that you're already licensed and you have investors and manufacturer and you had a design, like you had all these things lined up. I just want to take a moment to commend you for the hustle that you've done, and then in the less than 12 months, considering how you work, you homeschool your kids, like there's just so many things that you do to keep yourself busy, that to have done all of this in less than a year. I mean, I consider that very impressive.
Oh, thank you. I feel like I should be further along, but I know I got to be realistic because stuff takes time. It does.
Yeah.
So, especially if you want it to like go how you have it envisioned, you can't rush it all. So it's spending 15 minutes a day or, 4 hours a day. Like I put effort in a little bit every day, even if it's just updating social media or working on the website, because I do a lot of that stuff myself. Like I've been teaching myself kind of everything that I can in every aspect of the business. So that way, as we go to hire people, I can tell like, hey, you're going to run the social media. This is how I like to have it done. If you have any other ideas, like let's grow it. But, the more I know about every aspect of the company, I think the better it's going to be as we grow.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great idea. I feel like, for me, I work with a number of like virtual assistants, but I only started to delegate after I felt like I had the experience and understanding and the strategy. And so it was more about like telling them what to do than it was to like asking them to be my strategist. It's like, I know what I want. I know what's best. I just don't have the time to do this anymore. I need to delegate it. And so I think that's great that
and having that trust in whoever you're handing it off to is kind of like, all right, like kind of tough because everything that has to get done, but they have to figure it out and you're trusting them to do it for you. So it's a lot. Like I even struggle with it. My dad and my husband, come in and help me a lot. And I have trouble delegating to them and I trust both of them completely, but it's kind of like, hey, you guys aren't seeing my vision the same way. So it's been a great lesson in communication for me trying to get this startup going.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
My husband is the talker. I'm the listener. So now it's kind of pushing my boundaries, trying to communicate everything that I see for the company.
Yeah.
So that they can help me action it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. My husband and I, we've been in business together. This will be our 8 years. And it just like the biggest thing I have learned, at least for me, is communication, is being able to articulate, like is to advocate for what I believe in and be firm in, the things that I believe can help us move forward. And just knowing our different roles and our strengths, it takes time. And, that on top of like, right now we don't have kids, but like, this is basically our child. Like our business is basically our child at this point, at least until like we're so fortunate to have kids. But either way, I in a way, I feel like we are equipped to have kids because of just what it takes to run a business.
Of how much communication you've built. How long have you guys been married?
8 years. So 7 years, actually. Yeah. So 8 years.
So in business together for a long time.
Yeah.
Working on the communication all the time. That's awesome.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. No, it was actually when we met, he was actually referred to me as a client. I had a social media business like back in, I don't know, it was like some time ago now, like 7, 8. Yeah, basically like almost a decade ago, I had a social media business. So he was referred to me as a client. And long story short, like I got to a point with my business where I was like, okay, I could either like keep trying at this or I can just lean in and work full time with my husband. And so that was like a fun transition. I say that sarcastically. And but yeah, we made it. I mean, we didn't make it. I don't consider us like millionaires or anything, but more importantly, like we have been able to build like a sustainable business together. And, it's not just us two, like we do work with a team and we're very fortunate about that. It is like that constant, like trying to figure out like what hat to wear during the time of day. It's like, are we like business partners? Are we like husband and wife? And, are we co-parenting our pets? Like, what are we doing today? What are we doing in this very second? And the thing with my husband is like, for him, the lines are all blurred. Like he just believes like, this is our life. This is our family. And for me, it's like, I like to have the boundaries. It's like, I like to have a social life. I like to do things that are not related to work so I can keep my sanity. But, fortunately, it is good to have like a really ambitious partner, like that's what I find very helpful. Cause I think that I don't think we would be as effective or productive if at least one of us wasn't as ambitious as he is. So I am very grateful for that. But, it's a journey and I'm just happy to hear that your husband is very involved with your business.
Yes. He's got about 5 years to retirement. So I'm like, hey, if we can get this up and running, then you don't have to find a job after you retire. You can just come work with me and we do that full time and go live in the mountains and make it fun.
Yeah. No, I hope that you all stick around, because I know, like, for my husband, he wouldn't want anything more than to like live in the mountains and like have our kids be outdoors. So I hope that your business really, takes off, so that we can it's cool, because with all the, like, a number of guests I've had on the show, they focus on, serving kids. And I just think, oh, these are like good things to keep tabs on. Like when we have kids, and I can like reach out to these businesses and all that. But let's talk about the products that you hope to launch. I know you have like 3 layerable core products.
Yes.
Why don't we go through those and what you hope to launch in the springtime?
All right. So hiking pants, that's kind of like, that's my baby, because that's the thing I struggled with the most to find. So hiking pants is our number one, that's the baby of the company. And we're looking to, add those to a winter line and make them fleece lined. So that way they're a little warmer for winter. And then on top of that, we've got the sun hoodie, which is a long sleeve, lightweight. I actually just changed the materials in our tech packs. They're going to be bamboo. So it's a natural material. They're SPF or UPF, because it's not sunscreen. It's a UPF material that, kids don't get sunburned when they're wearing them. The hood comes up to cover as much skin as possible. Their hands get covered, and, they're super lightweight, and you don't get too sweaty wearing them. And then in the wintertime, you can layer on top of them to keep yourself warm. And then the jacket that we would be releasing in our first launch is a lightweight hiking jacket. So, it's a light insulation layer. It's not meant to keep you warm in the winter months, but you can layer it under a puffer coat or a rain jacket, so it keeps you warm, especially for like spring, summer hikes where you might get a light rain, because we live in Washington State and you never know when it's going to rain here. So, it'll keep the kid dry in a light rainstorm. It'll keep them warm enough on a cool spring day. But it's made for movement. So when they're out hiking and running around, they're not going to get cold. They're not going to get too hot. It's just a nice light jacket, and it works in a layering system. So wintertime rolls around, we'll offer a puffer coat, in the winter. So they could go sun hoodie, light jacket, puffer coat, and then a hard shell, like a rain jacket over the top, to meet whatever challenges the weather is throwing their way. So it's options, it's layering. If you are into hiking or mountaineering, it's all the same layers that someone would wear on a mountain any time of the year.
Yeah. I'm curious to know, like, why does this amazing opportunity exist? Like, why is it that, let's say, most places that do sell outdoor gear don't offer this? And sort of my first assumption is, well, kids are going to outgrow it quickly. That's sort of what goes in my mind. So what have you found in your research as to why, like, this is such a great opportunity for you?
And it is a great opportunity. And I've noticed a lot more of the bigger brands, Cotopaxi, Patagonia, a couple of them have started adding kids stuff. But again, they only start adding kids stuff for 5 and older. So all the kids under 5, there's not a lot of options for them. So one of the things I've noticed with younger kids not having these options is that, yes, parents are like, they have determined that like, oh, kids are just going to outgrow it. Like, why would people spend money on it? But I want to offer a trade-in program. So that way, like, hey, you're a lower income family, or you don't want to pay full price for these items. Like, hey, this one's slightly used. The kid hiked in it for a season. They outgrew it. Here you go. It's half off. So, help keep stuff out of landfills and, offer discounts on the people that trade their stuff in, and offer discounted items for the people who don't want to pay full price for it and don't mind it being slightly used.
Yeah.
So, and then, finding materials that I can beat better price points at, because I'm not buying brand new. Like, recycled materials are great, but sometimes there's companies that charge double for recycled materials. So sourcing is always like, I try to find the best deals that I can on my end, so that way I can keep a certain price point, because I don't make $1 million a year. I'm trying to keep stuff affordable for people, because I know how important it is to me to find good deals on stuff. So
yeah,
that's the plan. I think a lot of companies are just, it's not a big enough market for them that why bother,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's the whole like supply and demand kind of thing, where it's like, if people are not demanding this. Also, I think that maybe there's this perception for parents that we need to protect our babies like for the first couple of years and not bring them outdoors. And maybe that has part of it to do as well.
I disagree wholeheartedly.
Oh yes, yeah, I'm very well aware. And
to have them.
Yeah. And I think like what I appreciate about like what you've been even sharing on your social media is the benefits of just having your kids outdoors. So tell us what that experience has been like, or at least with your socials, like, featuring your kids and like what it means for them to be outdoors with you.
Oh, okay. So we were stationed in Germany, and my daughter was fortunate enough to attend forest school. So it's 4 and 5-year-olds just running around in the forest all day. And I would volunteer there one day a week to help out, and just my favorite time. It was so great watching all these kids. They'd give kids like a little kind of dull hatchet or a saw, and they're like, go cut trees, go figure out how to do stuff.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. So having the kids out there, just their confidence soars when they are outside. They ask questions. They're constantly checking out different rocks and sticks and asking about plants and would an animal eat this? Can I eat this? So, my now 4-year-old at 2, he could go out and identify different types of plants that were safe for him to eat. My husband, walking past something, he's like, oh, that's a blueberry bush. And my son, at 3 years old goes, Dad, those are huckleberries. Like, I was like, all right, he's learning, he's remembering all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And they just soak it all in. And they're like I said, their confidence skyrockets. We came across a study that showed the average American kid and child in the UK spends 7 hours a day on a screen. And my daughter was like, no, that can't be right. I was like, oh, the average kid. I was like, not you guys, the average kid.
The average, yeah.
Like, they got to be outside a lot too. I was like, no, they're outside an average of 2 hours a week. So 7 hours a day versus 2 hours outside a week. She's like, why? Why are they doing that? So now she like makes it a point to try to invite her friends to come hike with us. She's like, we have space in the car. Can I bring in the neighbors? I was like, you can invite them. Like, we can tell their whole family to come out. I don't care. I'll take anyone in the families. So it's really cool. And my son, the youngest one, he's at the point now where he's like, are we going to the mountains today? Are we done with sports? Can we go to the mountains?
I love that.
Every now and then, we'll have to divide and conquer. My husband will take kids to the mountain. I'll take kids to sports, and then I just dread life while I'm sitting there. Like, it's anxiety for me because I'm like, I'm inside. I need to be moving. But yeah, we try to make it a weekly thing. So our homeschooling program, Fridays is mountain time, no matter what. My dad will meet us up in the mountains. The kids have been learning about avalanches and how to dig an avalanche pit and see if we're in a risky area for an avalanche. And how much of it they're retaining, I have no idea. But they're outside, they're moving around, they're digging in the snow, they're playing, they're hiking. They love it. It's great. So
yeah,
I wouldn't do it for anything.
No, I think that sounds amazing. Most of my life I've lived in a city of sorts. So I definitely am one who doesn't go outdoors enough. I even have this light therapy box for like indoor, like fake light to kind of mimic like the sunlight.
That was in Washington in the winter. So we have one also because it's just so dark and gray here all the time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you got me thinking about, I have these friends at my church who, it's funny because like they're in the film industry, but they grew up never having TV. Like the mom homeschooled them. And whenever school was done, she was like, just go outdoors. And these two friends, I'm thinking in particular, like they just seem very confident in themselves and very present and communicative and just engaged in life. And also to just know, and also incredibly intelligent. And I think that's like, from what I'm hearing, that is part of the benefit of like, being outdoors, because like you said, you have to engage with nature. Like it's living, it's breathing, it's alive. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's a difference between them versus like, my other friends where in between our downtime at church, everyone would just be on their phones. And so you could just see like the clear difference between people who are looking up and trying to engage versus those who are just on their phone on like social media or like sharing the latest TikTok video. And there's a clear difference.
There is. And it's, the benefits is like, besides confidence, they're learning leadership skills out there. Mm-hmm. We'll take them up and it's like, hey, you're in charge today. You're making all the decisions. Or my daughter, she got lost in the woods. Technically, she ran ahead of us, stepped off the trail to go to the bathroom. When my oldest, my 16-year-old, did his like little whistle call that he does, and she wouldn't respond because she was embarrassed because she knows that she's not supposed to go off the trail without us being aware of it. So she didn't respond. Mm-hmm. And my husband and son passed her where she was on the trail. She gets back on the trail and goes the opposite direction that we were heading.
Oh, no.
And fortunately, I was hiking at 2-year-old pace, so she ran into us. And she was like, oh, good, you're still here. I was like, why are you coming back this way? Like, you're going the wrong way. So she was like, well, yeah, but I knew that you and Jamie weren't hiking fast enough. So I knew I'd catch you still. I was like, oh, yeah, but you know which way the car is, and you were heading in the wrong direction. She was like, yeah, well, I made a decision and I stuck with it. I was like, okay. So we always like troubleshooting, like, hey, what if you didn't run into me? What was your plan then? Like, so, we want them thinking, that survival. And they each carry a small backpack that, for hers, she's got her layers, she's got water, snacks, she's got a whistle, and she has a fire starter because we've taught her how to start fires at 9 years old. So, it's enough for her to feel safe in the interim. And fortunately for her, that's a busy enough area that if she did get lost, another party would probably run into her. But it's, teaching them some basic survival skills builds their confidence. It builds their leadership. It helps them make better decisions. And they don't get the decision fatigue the same way that someone who's constantly like sitting in front playing video games. Because I think video games are great to an extent. They can help build reaction time and help with decision making, but your decision fatigue is going to be there a lot faster because there's feedback all the time. You're go, go, go. Where in nature, one of the favorite things I have is when my husband's had a stressful work week, he'll be like, getting snippy with people, especially me. And I won't even talk to him on the trail. And then you can see him about a mile in. It's like he relaxes. And then all of a sudden he's nice and is like everything that was bothering him is just gone. And I'm like, there you go. Like, it's so much better now. And I was like, I'll talk to you again. And part of that is because in nature, there's no hard shapes. You're not looking at the rectangles of a building. You're not like, none of the trees are the same. They're all kind of different edges and everything flows and the sounds. Like, I love hiking in the complete quiet. I like being able to hear stuff. I like the different birds and the sounds of the water and, even your feet crunching on leaves. I love it all.
Yeah.
My husband wants to like sit there and look for like, hey, what can we go do that's going to be really cool out here? Like, let's go climb that rock. And the kids are like, yeah. I'm like, all right, go down.
I love it.
Because my job, like my husband grew up in a city, like he's from Chicago. I was a military brat, so I grew up everywhere. But my dad being from Oregon, we always tried to choose somewhere where hiking was going to be easier to do. So we would go hiking every Sunday. And my job is to kind of teach the family how to do dangerous things safely, whereas my husband wants to find the dangerous things for me to try to teach them how to do safely. So,
oh, I love that.
He's like, can we rappel down a waterfall? I'm like, we can. I was like, I don't want to do it with kids, but we can.
Yeah.
So,
I was even thinking about the relief that your husband gets like an hour into hiking. And I imagine that also being the benefits of being outdoors is you get more oxygen, because you're around nature and it's a lot more, the air is less polluted, because you're like away from the city even for a little bit. So I imagine that really plays into the overall well-being and health benefits of, being outdoors.
Well, and we joke, I'm big into mountaineering. So, I've climbed Mount Rainier, Mount Adams, Mount St. Helens. And we joke, after I climbed Mount Adams over the summer, my husband and I were getting on an airplane and I was feeling kind of lightheaded and I fainted. And he was like, are you okay? I was like, oh, I just have low altitude sickness. I was like, I need to get back on a mountain as soon as possible. That's been our joke now is like every time I start feeling not very good, I'm like, I need to get up on a mountain.
That's like so like ironic, right? Because it's like you have less oxygen as you go higher in elevation. So I love that. You're just like, I just need to go on a mountain right now. Like,
a mountain would fix this.
Yeah. You're like, I'm suffocating. I need to go on a mountain.
Too much air down here.
Yeah, no, I love it. Yeah, I mean, it's very admirable, like what your dad had set, how he set that example for you, the benefits of being outdoors. And I love how you are passing that down to your kids. And then now, you're really supporting other parents who have young kids that want to be taken outdoors, with KinderMountain. And so yeah, tell me a little bit about, I know that you already have some things planned out for this year for 2024. So tell us I guess what you hope the execution is going to look like. I know the launch is supposed to come out and then you're supposed to go to a vendor event. Tell me the planning for that.
Well, that timeline has kind of been pushed back a little bit. So we're still trying to lock in our manufacturer. So, I talked to so many different companies and I found some that I really click with, but there's no way I could hit the price points. I would be losing money on every item. And I'm, not trying to do that. Not trying to be super wealthy, but I'm also not trying to pay people to take my clothing off my hands. So the, trying to find the right fit for a manufacturer has been my biggest struggle with getting this launched. But I think I found someone, but they're heading into Chinese New Year because they're in Cambodia. So we're on pause for, about a month. And then hopefully we'll pick back up and have our first samples back in April, early May. I think with the samples, I can go to my vendor show still and show the samples and do all of that. It's a huge show in Salt Lake City area. And we went last year just to check it out. It was a blast. It was amazing. It was at a ski resort. And my kids had so much fun just because it's outside. So of course they're running around, they're riding the ski lift to go up to the top of the mountain. And I was like, yeah, we're going to be here next year. I was like, this is my goal. We're going to set up a KinderMountain booth here. And, even if we don't have anything besides some screen printed t-shirts and samples to show people, we're coming. So I will be there in June in Salt Lake City. So if you're in that area, come check us out. I don't know what ski resort we're at yet, but it'll be awesome no matter what.
Yeah, no, I love that determination. And, I think that's sort of what we have to face as business owners, or in your case, a startup, is you have this ideal timeline and then there's so many people that have to be involved that, in this case, you have to push it back by a month. And I think it's just part of the process of being a startup.
Yeah. You just make it work where you can, plan for things to not go on the exact timeline you were playing, but you have to be flexible and adaptable and, maintain a positive attitude about it. Because if I got really grumpy that, oh, it's Chinese New Year, that doesn't help anything. I can't control that. Cool. I'm going to research Chinese New Year now because I don't know too much about it. I didn't realize they took a month off of work, but they do. So it's cool.
Yeah.
So I was like, how do we have that in the US now? I want to take a month off work, but
I know, wish, right? Yeah. I'm always I know very little about Chinese culture, but for the friends that I do know who celebrate it, I'm just wow, because I think Chinese New Year starts later. It doesn't start the same New Year as it does for us.
This year it's February 10th is what I saw. So
yeah. And I'm just I always around that time of the year, I'm oh yeah, it's technically a new year for, for China. But for us, it's we're already a month into the new year. So
the longest month into the January has lasted 14 weeks already. So
yeah, it's we've been here for a while now.
Ending.
Yeah. I also think the benefit of running your own business, and you kind of hinted at this earlier, is just doing a little every day. The fact that you are persistent and you're kind of building one brick at a time. Sometimes if you're lucky, 2 or 3 bricks at a time a day. And I think just that attitude and that consistency makes all the difference. One of my favorite books I read a long time ago is called The Slight Edge. And it talks about the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is just people who do the things, do the little things every single day, and if not every single day, just consistently, whatever that looks like for you. If that's once a week, that's once a week. If that's maybe 15 minutes every day, then that's great, But I do like that for you, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And even if, you have to print out some, examples by the vendor event, then so be it. But you are building your building, so to speak. You are building it one brick at a time, even if you have something like the Chinese New Year, and that's going to push things back by a month.
Yeah, but a lot of outdoor companies, they're manufacturing in places that celebrate Chinese New Year. So it's not just me that's running into that issue. It's every outdoor company. So, like I said, just got to roll with the punches sometimes. And
Yeah.
like it doesn't, I mean, that's just money in my pocket for the month of February. So
Well, there you go. Yeah.
I can save up some more to invest into the company.
Yeah, I think that's a good attitude to have. And it kind of reminds me of there was this Instagram post you shared with your kids and like about your kids. And like the number one thing they learn being outdoors and you there being out there as a parent is that to be a parent already is to deal with a lot of chaos, but it's a different kind of chaos outside. Can you elaborate on that if you recall that post?
Oh, yeah. So I think it was a post that was going around. I got to look at it really quick. Let me pull it up.
No worries.
But yeah, so it's talking about like, life is going to be chaotic, so you can choose where it's going to be chaotic. They can be tearing apart your house, or you can just have them in the woods where they're just running around and wasting all their energy and not like hurting anything. If they're breaking sticks, like it's okay. just take them out there and let them be chaotic on the trail. They wear themselves out, and 90% of the time they pass out as soon as you get in the car. So it makes
Wonderful.
You get your quiet time eventually. And when they're outside, it's just, they're using their body like it's intended to. One of the things that I've noticed is like the childhood obesity rates have gone up drastically, just in the past 15 years. And kids are just spending so much less time playing, like not even out in nature, just at a playground in their backyard, doing anything that requires like movement. And it makes me sad. Like I don't want to see kids having those struggles at such a young age. Like it doesn't take much effort to get out and go play. Like play is fun. My kids even, I'm big into I worked as a personal trainer for a long time before I started getting into more of the business aspect of life. And even with my 16-year-old, he's like, oh, I want to go to the gym. I was like, all right, cool. Do you want to lift weights? He's like, no, I don't want to lift weights. I'm like, so he'll just take a soccer ball and go like on the basketball court and kick a soccer ball around the whole time. I'm like, you know what? You're moving. You're doing something. It's working towards your goal of being a soccer player. So like, movement is so important to life. And, if I can encourage, just a handful of kids to get up and move more, it's like, I feel like that's a great start because they're setting these little milestones to be healthier in the long run down the line. And, I just want to take all the kids out in the mountains because like I love seeing kids learning out there and seeing what they're capable of. And like, oh, what happened? Like, what's under this rock if I lift it up? Oh, look at all these bugs. Like, what kind of bugs are these? Like, let's check it out. So I'm constantly like, ask whatever questions you want to out here. I may not know the answers, but I can figure it out. Like, we've got all sorts of, there's a great app that I use to identify plants and animals and bugs and snails and whatever, but it's called Seek. And, my kids, they can take a picture of something and it'll tell them the regions where that plant is found, if it's edible, like the scientific name for it, whatever they want to know about it, they can look it up now. And, it's great because there's so many things they can learn out there that just help them be a better person overall. So
yeah.
I'm all for it.
I love it. It's like Mother Nature helps you with teaching and also exhausting your kids, and I just really appreciate hearing, all the benefits and also how your family has especially benefited from it. And yeah, I'm just taking it all in and I appreciate, just hearing that.
I was actually just reading a book called Guns, Germs, and Steel. And it's talking about how, Western culture, the kids spend time sitting at a desk, they spend time on screens, and they learn ways to learn, but they don't necessarily understand how to learn. So then they compare them to like Aboriginal kids, and the Aboriginal kids are outside doing stuff from a young age, hunting, like learning how to hunt. They're learning how to build shelters and make their own weapons for hunting. And those kids are actually better, like they understand how to learn. So they're actually smarter. Like if you compared their lifestyles, they're smarter because they understand how you're supposed to be learning, not like that you have to learn. And, like as a homeschool parent, I'm like, hey, like I think it's important that you're learning stuff about how the world works, but I also think it's important that you're understanding how to learn and what you're capable of doing, because it's going to translate to your schoolwork, and your schoolwork stuff's going to translate into the nature stuff. So like, let's just combine all of it and you guys can be superhumans maybe one day. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a difference between just having knowledge versus applying that knowledge. And that's what it sounds like you want to instill in your kids is like, be hands-on with life. Like you're better, you learn better that way. Like, I don't think we were really designed to just like sit and take in information, and it's like the difference between like reading a textbook versus going to the location that you're studying. You just take it in a lot more differently and it brings to life what is in the text, So I think that's great. And I just want to say kudos to you and, your ambition to make KinderMountain possible. I just want to wish you the best of luck with this year. I know this is a big year for you. And I also just want to make sure that I've asked you everything I wanted to ask you. Or is there anything you feel like I should be asking you that I haven't asked you yet?
Not that I could think of.
Good. Then I feel like I've done my job. Awesome. I love it. Well, yeah, Katie, as we start to wrap up here, any closing thoughts before we go?
Closing thoughts. I'll share one of my favorite quotes.
Okay.
It's from Edward Abbey. And, he's a big environmentalist, not in like a hippie way. He's conservationist, more or less. And, his quote is, the average person will see more in hiking 1 mile than they will in driving 100. So just some food for thought of like, think of everything you see when you're on a road trip versus everything you see when you just go for a walk, even in your neighborhood. And you notice small details about like, oh, hey, like my neighbor's grass, like how'd they get it to grow that way? Just take it all in and figure stuff out and always be willing to be adaptable and flexible because that is how you grow a business.
Yes. I mean, I feel like it's a good lesson for life. It's especially important to be in business. Yeah.
That is true. Flexibility, always be willing to learn stuff because like I went to business school. Like I have a degree in business. I feel like everything I learned doing that degree, I learned nothing from that. I've learned more just sitting down and actually starting a business than I did doing 4 years of college for business. So
amazing.
I make it a point to sit here and like teach myself a new skill at least every month because, why not? So
yeah, for sure. I think that learning and applied knowledge is life. It's living and breathing. And I love it. Well, that was a great quote. I don't want to like one up that in any way. So I'm going to stop right there. And, Katie, it was a pleasure having you on our show. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.
Hey, this is your host, Jen Amos. Thanks again for listening to today's episode of Holding Down the Fort by US VetWealth. Visit holdingdownthefortpodcast.com to access the full show notes of this episode, including resources mentioned and bonus content. Once again, that's holdingdownthefortpodcast.com. Lastly, stay after this outro music for something a little extra. Thanks again and chat soon. Bye for now. All right, hey everyone, welcome back. Thank you for joining me here in the post commentary. I wanted to revisit the reflection question that we opened up with, which is, what outdoor activity brings you and your children the most joy? Now, admittingly, I do not have kids. However, if and when my husband and I are fortunate to have kids, to have children, I know that my husband would probably treat my kids very similar to how we treat our dog, which is he's outdoors all the time. He loves being outdoors. He would go camping all the time if he could. He would get an RV and travel and do a lot of outdoorsy things. I, on the other hand, if I had a choice, I would be glamping, which I've learned is a nickname for glamorous camping. That would be me. I would be in the RV with the AC on and, just watching my family outside and waving and saying, hope you're having fun. I'll take photos from here. But when I do think about outdoor activities for myself, if there's any outdoor activity I enjoy, it's not really much. Oh, you know what? Paddleboarding. It doesn't involve children for me because I don't have children, but I love paddleboarding. I think that whenever the weather is just right, when the water is still, I just love being out on the water. Not under the water. I'm not really about swimming in the water. I'm about being above the water. So that's my take on that. But anyway, that's a question for you today. I know that my answer is completely irrelevant because I don't have kids. But if you do have kids, what outdoor activity brings you and your children the most joy? Feel free to let Katie know. You can find her contact information in the show notes of this episode, and or you can visit our website, holdingdownthefortpodcast.com. And in the search bar, search for episode 198. Last but not least, if you want to get bonus content, if you enjoy our show and you want something to consume between now and Thursday, highly recommend that you join our free portal, which is available at holdingdownthefortpodcast.com/portal. You will get access to our private podcast called Inside the Fort, where you will get a more candid commentary on anything, lots of things from me. That and additional resources from my company, US VetWealth, financial resources, more videos, just more content to help our military families make confident and informed decisions about their finances, especially for military retirement. So again, if that is for you, it is free. So, you know the phrase, if it's free, it's for me. It's for me. Go to our website, holdingdownthefortpodcast.com/portal. And I look forward to seeing you there. Until then, we'll see you Thursday. Bye for now.